Thank you, sir. And welcome to this week's TOC, where we've got a bit of a lighter agenda. So we've got reviewing actions from last week, a review of outstanding PRs, the charter updates in relation to the election, and any other business. Has anyone got anything to add at this point? David, I've got yours captured as any other business. Okay, so we'll go on to reviewing actions from last week. So it's down to me to contact Ruben about the diff of affected items. And I did poke you via Slack. He's looking lost.
Oh, you're talking to me, Lee? I'm not obviously not paying attention.
No,
Sorry.
no, Ruben.
Yeah, I thought you were talking to Ruben.
Yeah. Okay. Nice, found it.
Yeah,
cool.
I found it.
I'll let you read and digest that one in the meantime. Chris, how's it been going with contacting the board for the charter changes?
Well, we still haven't heard from Alan or Craig, so that's going to be blocking pretty soon. So yeah, I guess Eric and David, you've both tried pinging him. I do have his cell phone number. I haven't ever used that before, but I could shoot him a text and maybe escalate that way.
Yeah, I can, Chris. I can try pinging him later today on something else related to Summit. So I'll try and get that done.
Yeah, cool. Hopefully we can get a hold of Craig today to get that approved and get that all set. Because then there does have to be some time for the folks who are ineligible to actually petition the board and the board to say yes. So that's a bit of a crunch then. But that does go through Thursday, so we got a couple of days there. Yeah, so that's sort of the most urgent thing as far as the election goes. And then Eric, I'll also have get you a the full list of eligible voters. You can that at the YAML file with Electo.
Yeah, sure. I think, Chris, you should be able to add that to the branch, because that's just in that, I think it's the Electo branch on the community repo.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
okay.
But then, yeah, we can get that merged to represent the election structure and then reconfigure the election app to point to the main branch.
Great, okay.
Although, I mean, once it's merged, it shouldn't really matter as long as it's picking up changes on those branches. So yeah.
Okay, well, I'll get that in by tomorrow, and then we should be good to go there. And then it looks like we do have 3 nominees in so far. I think I've heard that there might be a couple more, but I'm not quite sure. So yeah. So at the very least, we have a sufficient number of nominees now, but I think we might see 1 or 2 more.
Okay, cool. And David's proposal for cost optimizations is on the agenda, so that one's all good. And Eric, we already know about nudging Amelia for an update, and that's being bounced out. The 14th or the 7th? Because we've got a meeting
the 14th, right?
Yeah.
14th.
Okay, cool. So 7th, do we want to slot somebody else in there or just have a light week that week?
I think the next working group in the order would be the CF-on-K8S working group. So we could see if they would be available on the 7th.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one. See how things have gone with the Carifi launch.
Yeah, sounds good. Why don't I'll do that right now.
Perfect.
On the running thread where we've had that.
Perfect. Thank you. I will just make a note of that.
That running thread starts with such a serious tone, and every time someone comments in it, I read the first part and I feel like I'm about to be fired or something. That's what I think of every time you ping in that thread.
Hopefully
I should start a new thread then. I don't know.
Okay, cool. So we have that for next week. So that is perfect. Okay, so I will just turn on filter. Oh, okay. Actually, I'm going to turn off that filter because I think that we've got some bits there as well. So, okay, cool. So that should have us our board. So we've got a few working group bits in to review. There's nothing actually TOC flagged at the moment, but I just wanted to check with the sync Cloud Foundry with reality, update Cloud Foundry. Do these need anything from us TOC wise?
I don't know, I was on vacation. So I assume that someone else has like done all the, I don't know, reviewing of that. I'm glad someone else stepped in.
Oh, it's conflicts. Yay. One.
I will, I've been catching up with email, but this is on my list of things to look at.
Okay, cool. And Stalebot. Yay. So it looks like you're good to go with Stalebot. Okay. Then we've got the garden repos. Okay. Stephan, you've okayed that one. All right. So that should be good to go then in that case. Oh, thank you. Don't be a Burke. And then Andy, I've seen there's the thread on that one for Andy to raise another PR. So that's all okay in there. I'll skip over blocked for the moment as the next bit. The RFC on common Stalebot, is this just hanging again, or does anything need to happen immediately?
Oh, that's still hanging. I mean, I can convert it to a draft. I think that makes more sense than just...
Okay. All right, that seems okay.
Can you filter drafts?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably can do. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's for later.
Yeah, that's for later. All right, cool. Then we have the spicy RFC, which is where we got. Yes, that's the discussion that I was poking you about to see could we generate a list just before we do the yank the network cable approach.
I mean, there is a file, right? There's the org.cloudfoundry or org/cloudfoundry file. And this, we will be generating a new version of that. So the diff between the two, that's basically the diff, I guess.
Yeah.
Seems good. Seems nicely declarative with the backup right there.
Okay.
The problem is picking a cutover time, right?
Yes.
Also.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, I guess. And I don't think that there's ever going to be a good cutover time, is there?
We could do like next Tuesday after this meeting or something when we're around. I don't know. I would propose some early time in the week. Obviously not a Friday because like Europeans are going home by the time we're up and so on. But I think like a Tuesday after this meeting.
But yeah,
I thought last time we talked about like giving people, about a month or so of warning. So like, okay, if you think that there are going to be problems with bots, like there's a defined time frame to know, like, okay, can you check whether this is covered, or double check your concourse config or something like that. If there's any issues, then we can try and resolve those before we just do a hard cut over and trash someone's CI system for a week.
Yeah, or like I would propose to have like a escape hatch where we do a cutover, but also merge in like some manually maintained file where we can do some hacks to get people unblocked, and then we can later, because then we have one file with all the exceptions, and then we can start chasing people on like, why is this still here, right? And then it's documented. The exceptions are documented. I think that's better than what we currently have.
Doesn't it make sense to first generate these the standard teams automatically instead of, I mean, at the moment,
Yeah, we
hardly
have
any
to.
working group has them. Yeah, that's
No. We
but,
have to. Like that's like the prerequisite. So we need to generate them and then also merge in like the manual maintained file and the contributors file. So it's
that
three
makes
things.
sense. Yeah.
And then we can do the cutover, but we have like still that the escape hatch file to resolve things, and then we can iterate on that file, reducing that.
Okay, so as this is only the RFC, I think we can declare this open for final comments.
Or we can open it for contributions because it actually needs to be implemented. Yeah, I mean, like this is the proposal to do this, but I mean, yeah, we have more of those proposals that aren't actually enforced. And it would be nice if other people start contributing to like the org automation, because I don't know.
Yeah,
really sustainable
I think
for me.
I could help with the org automation, but before that, I would like to have the contributors automation in place. Here, a PR is open, and maybe we can have, I don't know, this week, next week, a pairing session, and to bring it in. The PR is there. Yeah, just comment if something needs to be done. And
yeah, I think that there was now a file, right? It was merged already, right? There's a separate file now with contributors, or
it's a separate file, yes, but the automation to generate then the Cloud Foundry YAML is separate. That's not yet.
Yeah, but I'm
done.
like that. Yeah, I know, but that needs to be. We need contributors, and we need to generate all the teams. It's all in one, right? It's not, you cannot deliver.
Yeah, but it could be done that we first get the contributors in, then we have the CI working, and then we can add the teams.
Oh, so you want to take contributors out of Cloud Foundry.yaml?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that would be a first step. Sure.
And the PR is open for that. Maybe just so there's already a generation, but it's just writing a file. It's not yet in the GitHub action. Or I modified one GitHub action, but this one is not merged, so it's not active.
Yes, there we are.
Yeah, this one, exactly.
Yeah. With regards to the automation, could I make a request? Could we add some documentation around it?
It's added.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. In this other PR, there is at least a README that explains the automation.
No, I've got to the wrong place now. For some reason, I don't know why. Oh, it's in. Okay, so it's in here then. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That should hopefully make things a bit easier then in that case. All right. Awesome. Okay. So generate Cloud Foundry org members. That ties in with that one. Yeah. So that's in there. So in terms of us moving this one forward, Stephan, how do you want to go with it?
I would invite Ruben for a meeting, and then I think we can merge it together if nobody objects up front. That would be the easiest one, because I don't want to mess up the existing automation, and this is either, you have to jump.
Okay. Cool. I will just make a note of that as an action. Cool. So thank you very much for that one. And this one that we've got, building build pack dependencies, CFF. Yes. Okay. So that's motion to commence final comment period, agree or disagree, and that's on us to agree or disagree with that one. I'll put a TOC action in for that one. Okay, cool. Have we got down the bottom anything particularly new? So update to README. That's the voting method.
Yeah, Chris, I saw you submitted this separately. I think this is covered in the other changes on the Electo branch, pretty much. I saw you made a couple other modifications, so I just kind of duplicated what seemed relevant over there.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, then we can close this out.
Okay, closed. All right, nomination here from Amelia.
Yes, we have a docs group with no members. And the docs team that controls the CI does not have, right? Anyway, they need access. Max has been a contributor for over 8 years. I was going to list all the things that he was the #1 contributor of. You know how there's like dozens of docs repos, but GitHub was taking tens of minutes to load all the contribution. Anyway.
Yeah, cool. And you've got quorum from TOC, so I'm just going to click that button. Okay. And other than the blocked, which is a separate item in itself, and David's, is there anything else that anyone wants to flag up at this particular point for our review?
Yeah, I got some questions about Kubo CI things in the incubator that were archived. Apparently, some team is still using that, but we don't have like any Kubo related working group, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I asked them to create a PR or something to have a discussion there. Apparently, that some of those repos are still being used by VMware internal teams to create some offering. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So I don't know on that one.
They haven't created those PRs or issues, so just wait for that. Just a heads up.
Okay, cool. So, Chris, on the charter update side of things, do we have any kind of blocker buster plan in place?
Well, Eric's going to ping Craig again later today, and if that doesn't work, he'll get back to me, and we'll get noisier. I wouldn't imagine we're going to run into a problem all week. So.
Okay. All right, cool. That should be no problem at all then in that case. Hopefully. So. And then David, you've got the first slot for any other business. So
sure. Thanks, Lee.
Take it away.
I think I've been, okay, so to set the stage, I've been trying to figure out how to get the CI budget in the foundation to be somewhat viable for the open source continuous integration and testing of Cloud Foundry that we do. And there's several blockers for that. One of which is it's a bunch of work to move stuff out of VMware infrastructure into CFF. That's one blocker. That's solvable. We can be like, we should all do this work and it's worth it. Another blocker is it's way too much money. We spend like maybe $5 or $8 million a year testing open source Cloud Foundry inside of VMware. We don't have $5 to $8 million worth of budget. And some of that is because we're not paying a lot of attention to how we can be more efficient there. And so my first goal before trying to figure out how to actually make it viable, because I know it's not viable if we don't try to make it efficient, is to make our CI spend more efficient and our CF deployment spend more efficient. And so I guess in order to make that happen, I'm going through everything and trying to create a proposal for modernizing the machine sizes and really making them as efficient as possible. So here's what example of what CF deployment costs per month on 3 different infrastructures: AWS, Google, and Azure. And it's very expensive for a lot of reasons, right? I mean, it's $3,000 a month on AWS or $2,000 close on Google. And the reason it's so expensive partly is because we're using some very large machine sizes on, I mean, G2S is crazy large. Whatever, GS2 on Azure. So like people haven't paid a lot of attention to these machine sizes in quite a long time. So I've created a PR, which is not quite ready, but it's going to be controversial because it's going to affect people. And I'll remind people why. But I've got this like draft efficient modern VM sizes going along. And I think the decisions that I'm making here along the way that I want to run by this group are that we are allowed to use burstable VM sizes for a set of things that should be burstable. Not everything, but there's a set of VM sizes in CF deployment and Bosch deployment that like should be allowed to be burstable. Another is that Diego cells should be smaller and more consistent. Right now, Diego cells have between 26 and 52 gigabytes of memory, depending on the IaaS you choose. And that's crazy because a lot of these CF deployments, the vast majority of CF deployments are for testing purposes, and they deploy 1 or 2 apps and then they're torn down. Or they deploy 5 or 6 apps for testing purposes and they remain running. You could solve all of that with 1 Diego cell that is 16 gigabytes of memory. Or you could have 4 that are 52, which is what we're running right now. So it's massively wasteful to have these large things. And then obviously we should modernize our instance types while we're here. Modern instance types are more efficient, higher performance for the amount of money spent. I am trying to point out that this is actually a big deal for breaking change purposes, right? And this is where everyone's going to fight this potentially. I think the first reason it's a breaking change is that I'm optimizing for the testing, not exactly non-production per se, but not high performance VM sizes. So the CF deployment you would get out of the box after this change would not be optimized for high performance. It would be optimized for high availability, but burstable performance and like medium and low throughput and so on, but not like enough to pass tests, but not enough to like give you absolute dedicated high performance. So anyone using the default VM sizes for high performance or production, CF should consider customizing their VM sizes. I write later, we believe it is acceptable to make this type of change because we expect people who run their own Cloud Foundries in a serious context to be auditing those VM sizes, partially because we're not cost efficient and partially because they might want their own performance or scaling situation, right? The second concern would be reserved instances. If I bought a whole bunch of M4s and you switch me out to M5s, I'm in serious trouble there, right? Because like I reserved all these M4s and now I'm spending all these M5s. We cannot optimize for this use case, right? Because you will never be able to change VM sizes because there'll always be people that have reserved the previous generation, which becomes the previous generation. You just have to like move forward and expect people to customize their VM sizes if they actually care. And the third thing that people have to be careful of here is that Diego cells, if I'm standardizing Diego cells to 16 gigabytes, you're going to lose like a lot of your capacity, right? If you're running 5 cells or 10 cells right now, you should be running like twice as many, right? Or more, depending on which IaaS you're on, because the reduction is going to vary in order to achieve consistency. So if you are running a production CF with or even like a CF that you care about being persistent is used by a lot of people, you are going to lose a lot of capacity if you are on the default VM sizes and you upgrade. What this looks like in practice is you run the latest version of Bubble, you bubble up, the cloud config is automatically replaced, and then the new VM sizes are rolled out. If you're not doing those things, like you ran Bubble up once, but never again, you're fine, right? This is not actually a change to CF deployment. It is a change to how the cloud config is populated in Bosch. If we were to go ahead with this change, I'm giving mappings further down. I'm also defining what these VM sizes mean, right? About like, they should have this amount of memory at least, they are allowed to be burstable, they're not allowed to be burstable, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm defining minimums here for what's actually required for each of these. There's only 5 VM sizes involved, right? 2 for Bosch, essentially 2 for Bubble, and like 3 for CF. And that's it. We're only talking about standardizing these 5 VM sizes. And then I'm giving examples of like, you know, how we could be saving I'm proposing a 79% cost reduction on the minimal VM size, which should be minimal, by the way. If you're running anything that's like really resource intensive on a minimal VM size, no, read the word minimal, doesn't mean. And so I moved UAA in this proposal, or I actually made a PR already to move like UAA from minimal to small, because it is not, anyone who's used UAA will tell you it is not minimal. It is a Java process that uses a large amount of memory and CPU. I've done some stuff on Azure, mapping. I haven't finished the mapping for Google, but I've got it written down in sheet. So I think this is going to result in some significant cost savings. Probably CF deployment is going to be 50% cheaper, something like that when we deploy it. And then if we can get this approved, I can start to build a budget for open source CI spending and so on. But if we don't do that, my budget's going to get blown out at this point. Like we can't afford too much stuff to move over into the CFF without also optimizing for these costs. So how do you folks, we have a few people that are CF consumers like Cloud.gov and right, and Stephan over at SAP and such. Do people customize their VM sizes, or do you track defaults? That's the first question.
We don't use any defaults. We customize everything on all YAS layers, so no problem for any productive or even testing environments. We do have a few, very few actually, test environments that use bubble up, and here it may affect us, but this is something we can look after and check that copy performance test, for instance, but it's also something that is more targeted towards community. But if we talk about performance tests, then we may reconsider which type of VMs we want to use. So here you don't want to have burstable VMs. So we did this mistake in the beginning, and the numbers are a lot of fun.
Other users?
For Cloud.gov, there was a cost optimization period we went through a while back, and I believe we changed it since instance types and used RIs quite a bit for that. I wasn't around on the team at that point. I was off the team for about 2 years. So I'm not sure the exact details of how they accomplished that, or how that dovetailed or conflicted with CFD. So I'm not sure how it was accomplished, but I can check with the team.
Great. Yeah, give us some feedback on it when we submit the PR officially for review. But you probably are not tracking defaults on Bubble, or you're vulnerable to disruption anyway, right?
Correct. Yeah, we don't use anything standard out the box, because why do that when you can customize everything? So that's what we do. One interesting thought is, why not Gravitron?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. So as we've been going through our own like cost prediction, because VMware has different discount structures with different ISs than Pivotal does and so on. I was really sold to Gravitron by the AWS team, and I'm like, no. We are a platform to run other people's stuff. We cannot make architecture. They're like, oh, you're going to love Gravitron. It can work for lots of different things, but not everything. And I'm like, cool. We run arbitrary Docker images on this platform. Can you guarantee me that those will work with Gravitron? And they're like, well, as long as they work with Gravitron, we can definitely guarantee that they'll work. And I'm like, arbitrary workloads. Next question.
Fair enough.
So that'd be nice, right? Like it works for things where everything's under your control. You can probably run the cloud controller on it, right? If you tweaked a few things. I imagine we would need like a new stem cell or something crazy like that too. I'm not sure.
One thought I have is, as a working group lead, I have no idea how much our CI costs. So like that, like you were like 5 to 8 million. I was like, had no idea. Like this information is just not exposed to us at all, right? We just write more jobs and spin up more Cloud Foundries willy-nilly. So if you want a cost reduction, it would be nice if we could get that information.
And VMware pays for it so far. And I think the right solution is that some of that stuff is going to move over. So Chris and I have been talking, we think the right strategy there, and this is the second RFC about how we do IaaS, spending and cost, but it's a little bit dependent on this first one. So I'm trying to get this one out of the way. I think that we're going to have working groups own more of their CI. But Amelia, our plan is like, we know that there's a lot of CI stuff sitting at VMware, and our goal isn't to move everything in the community. Our goal is to move the stuff that's really active with contributors. Like we want contributors to be able to see and manage CI together. So like maybe Cappy or Routing or Diego we would try to move some of those components that have a lot of contributors from non-VMware working on them, so that like a release could be cut or a CI could be debugged, or people could go log into Google Console and like debug a failure, right? Or see something. And the Bosch team's been doing this, right? With the bionic stem cell. CFD is starting to do it as well. And so we'll have Karifi is doing it. So essentially we'll allocate you a Google project. Chris can allocate you a Google project. We'll set up a budget. It's about finding the time to do that move over, and also understanding how much you can spend, and maybe periodically checking that spend, or maybe this is like a Chris function where Chris reviews with the work, sends out a report to the working groups with some periodicity saying like, here's what you used last month, here's what you used this month. Just keep in mind, you have 50% more, make sure you meant to do that, and so on, if that's at all helpful. There are multiple goals all at once here, right? I'm talking about modernizing VM sizes for like getting better performance out of these latest generations and getting rid of deprecated VM generations. I'm talking about like actually making the default target more dev and test capable for cutting costs. And I'm talking about moving spend into the foundation and allowing contributors to manage their own CI together collectively, rather than like you have to go through your VMware people inside of the working group. So there's a lot of stuff. They're all kind of connected to each other. I think they're all good changes. And I don't want this to be seen as like cost penny pinching across the board, right? That is not actually the goal, but it is a good goal. It would be really nice if we got it done, because it seems so wasteful when I look back on how much we've spent across the board over many, many years.
But think of all that carbon you're saving as well.
I know, right? We got to reserve all those really large VMs that we're not using.
Okay, cool.
Any other users want to give feedback on whether they're worried about the RA changes or anything?
Seb, any thoughts?
Am I?
Yeah, you're off mute. No, you're back on mute.
I was off. So, hi everybody. Sorry. No, so I think having the experience of customized all of the things, it's a good change. And I mean, yeah, principle of least surprise, but it's just like when somebody brings up something new, they will look at this, right? I think it's a very sensible thing to do.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll fill in the rest of the table for Google. It will be a big change in Google. I'm going to go in from N1 to E2. You're not going to get sustained use discounts on E2, for example, but you could still get committed use if you want. And yeah, E2s are a lot cheaper. They have some nice burstable VM classes in there too to mix in. I'm pretty excited.
Okay. Cool. Has anyone got anything else for this week? Okay, I'll just run through what we've got as actions. There's the ever moving forwards RFC to discuss supply chain security when someone's got some capacity. Stephan and Ruben, you're going to meet to merge in those PRs, and then hopefully we can get some more people helping out with automation, which would be cool. We've got a TOC final comment period approval on Greg's spicy PR. I've already given my thumbs up on that one.
Oh no, that's for the AWS switch over for the build pack dependencies. Spicy PR is differently.
Oh, no, there's also spicy PR that Greg's motion to commence the final comment period.
No, I think that's the one about switching at least the CloudFront configuration over to the foundation.
Yeah, sorry, it is. I can't read. It's the end of the day here. Yes, so it is moving that one over, not spicy. Yeah. So, and yep, Eric, you've done your nudging already, so that's brilliant. So I guess at this point, have a lovely rest of the week, everybody, for the various periods that we're about for.
Thanks,
Thank you very much,
everyone.
all.